The afternoon sun poured molten gold across the sleek deck of the Odyssey, Femi Olyakoya's private yacht. Crystal flutes of champagne caught the light as Omotara Olyakoya, Africa's youngest self-made billionaire wife, laughed at one of her husband's jokes. Beneath her designer sunglasses, her dark skin glowed with health and privilege. Yet behind the polished smile, a flicker of unease danced in her eyes. "Darling, you're awfully quiet," Femi teased, toying with the stem of his glass. He wore a tailored white linen suit, crisp and flawless, the cufflinks glinting like miniature moons. "Tell me what you're thinking." Omotara sipped slowly, just marveling at how peaceful this is. No board meetings, no headlines. She swept her arm toward the endless blue horizon. "It's like we own the whole ocean." Femi's smile sharpened. "Nearly." He dropped his voice. "Once we settle a few family matters, you'll really feel like you own it." Her brow furrowed. "Family matters. Everything's in perfect order back home." He set his glass on the teak railing and moved closer, voice a velvet whisper. "Not the way I arranged it." She tensed, the piece of tension prickling down her spine. "Femi, what are you?" He cut her off with a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Nothing, my love. Just raising a toast to our future." He raised his glass. She mimicked the movement, but her jaw clenched. As the yacht sliced through calm waters, Omotara felt a tremor of foreboding. She remembered Femi's late-night phone calls, hushed voices on the bridge, and that fleeting look of contempt she once caught in his gaze. The champagne bubbled in her throat as she tried to swallow the taste of dread. Below deck, a string quartet played a soft jazz arrangement. Lanterns flared along the rails, casting dancing shadows. In that romantic glow, she allowed herself one last sigh of contentment, unaware that the next moments would shatter her world. After dinner, Femi excused himself to the upper deck, phone concealed in his palm like a damning confession. He tapped out a rapid message. "Midnight. Do it now, or she'll ruin everything." A tiny blue bubble blinked beneath the name, Bisola Kiss marked. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and returned to Omotara, who was tracing patterns in the moonlit water. "Your heart's not in it," he observed, sliding an arm around her waist. He pressed close, breathing in her jasmine perfume. "You'll regret pouting later." She fought to keep her voice light. "I'm just tired, Femi. It's been a long week." He tapped her hip impatiently. "I have something special planned for you." He smiled. "You'll thank me later." She arched an eyebrow. What could be more special than this? His smile flickered. "Let's head to the bow." He gestured and led her forward, to where a small table was set with their anniversary cake and 2 plates. The scent of vanilla mingled with the sea breeze. "Happy 5th anniversary," he said, lifting a slice. Her throat tightened. Femi had never cared for public displays. They made too much noise. "Thank you," she managed. Her eyes narrowed. "Why are we celebrating out here?" He leaned in, voice low. "Because it's time to close one chapter and begin another." He pressed the fork into her slice with unnecessary force, then withdrew. "Eat." As she complied, Femi's gaze flicked away, toward the inky horizon. His hand brushed hers, but the contact felt cold. In that moment, Omotara realized the warm camaraderie they once shared had vanished. A servant's footsteps echoed behind them. Femi's driver, Musa, paused at the entry, nil expression on his face. Femi waved him away. Musa bowed and retreated, but Omotara caught the driver's fleeting look of sorrow, proof that the conspiracy didn't end with Femi and his mistress. Someone else knew what was coming. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. He nodded, hiding the twitch in his jaw. "Better than ever." Yet as the yacht's whistle sounded, Omotara sensed a current of danger swirling beneath the celebration. By the time the cake was gone, her future had already been sealed. Midnight approached in creeping shadows. The deck lanterns flickered, and the waves glanced like black glass. Omotara stood alone at the railing, admiring the phosphorescent trail the Odyssey left behind. Femi emerged from the doorway, face expressionless beneath the brim of his hat. "You look lovely under the stars," he said, voice eerily calm. She forced a smile. "Quiet night. I almost forgot how much I love the sea." He joined her at the rail, walking so close that their arms touched. He inhaled sharply. "Some say the ocean is merciless." Her brow rose. "Is that a threat?" He feigned amusement. "Only that it doesn't forgive mistakes." He leaned forward, offering her his hand. "Dance with me." Before she could respond, he spun her into a gentle waltz. The polished deck shifted beneath their feet. Omotara's heart pounded, each beat echoing a warning. "Femi," she said, voice trembling. "Why are you acting like this?" He dipped her head, brushing her hair aside. "I've never been more certain." She caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of her eye. Musa lingering near the stairs, mouth pressed into a hard line. He retreated as Femi glided her across the deck. The music stopped abruptly. Someone had turned off the quartet's feed. Silence crashed in. Femi's grip on her waist tightened. "You should feel lucky," he murmured. She squirmed. "Let me go." He released her, with an almost theatrical flourish, and stepped behind her, one hand finding her shoulder. "Goodbye, my love." Before she could spin around, a powerful shove sent her over the railing. Time slowed as she felt her center of gravity slip. The moon spun into chaos. She screamed, a sound swallowed by the vast Atlantic. She hit the water with a thunderous crash. For a heart-stopping moment she sank, cold, wild, helpless. Then instinct took over. Arms flailed, lungs burned. She broke the surface, churning toward the faint glow of the deck above, screaming her husband's name. Above her, Femi watched. His back was to her. He buttoned his jacket. The lamps reflected in his eyes. Bright, unrepentant, triumphant. "Rest well," he whispered to the sea. "Your story ends tonight." And with that, he disappeared into his cabin, leaving her battered body to the mercy of the waves. Omotara sank into darkness, weightless and terrified. Her lungs seared as she fought for air. Suddenly, a warm current buoyed her. Salt stung her eyes, but she blinked through the pain. Beneath her, a dark shape nudged her. "Madam, madam, are you alive?" A man's voice, crisp with concern. She sank an arm into his grasp. When she looked up, torchlight revealed a weathered fisherman, a Johnny, and two villagers in tattered clothes. Their boat bobbed alongside her, wooden sides slick with algae. "I won't let go," a Johnny vowed, hauling her over the gunwale. Omotara collapsed, coughing frothy water. The villagers draped a thick wool blanket around her shoulders. "What happened?" she rasped. A Johnny's eyes hardened. "That man, he threw you." He spat into the sea. "But you're safe now." Tears blurred her vision, tears of relief, rage, and grief. "My husband." A Johnny shook his head. "Your husband is a killer. Let the sea judge him." They rowed toward a flickering lantern on shore. A small coastal village, Abuligbobi, where time seemed to move to the lullaby of fishermen's nets and the cry of seabirds. Children stared. Women hastened indoors. Yet beneath the curiosity, respect glimmered. They treated her like royalty in rags. As they reached the sand, a woman met them with hot tea and whispered prayers. "You're safe," she repeated. "God has delivered you." Omotara trembled, cradling the cup. The warmth seeped into her frozen limbs. She shivered, not from cold, but from the realization that her life had been stolen, and somehow returned. She looked up at the thatched cottages and whispered into the night air, "I will make him pay." And as the villagers stood guard, Omotara, no longer the pampered billionaire wife, felt the first ember of vengeance ignite in her chest. 3 days later, Omotara emerged from the humble hut as Ijeoma Njidika, a woman reborn. She wore loose cotton garments dyed indigo, her hair wrapped in a matching headscarf. Her dark skin bore bruises and scratches, but her eyes burned with purpose. Musa, her former driver, had slipped into Viralvideos under cover of dawn. He approached her timidly, guilt heavy in his shuffle. "Madam, Lady Ijeoma, I can't stay away any longer." She studied him. Despite his role in Femi's deception, he had lured her to the deck and kept watch. His face was etched with remorse. "Why are you here, Musa?" His voice cracked. "I couldn't live with what I did. I've transferred what I could of your funds into your secret account. And I know how Femi has been bleeding your companies dry." Ijeoma nodded slowly. "You risk your life by helping me." He bowed his head. "I'd risk mine 1,000 times to undo what I helped destroy." A small smile curved her lips. "Then let us be allies." She pulled a notebook from the pocket of her robe, a ledger filled with Femi's offshore accounts, concealed assets, and incriminating emails. "With this," she said, tapping the pages, "we will unravel him piece by piece." He reached out, placing a hand over hers. "I'm with you." As the sun rose over Viralvideos, its rays illuminated her resolve. Ijeoma looked out to sea. Her path of vengeance would take her back to the world she once ruled. But this time she would be the one in control. Her mission was clear: reclaim her empire, expose her betrayer, and watch Femi Oyakoya beg for mercy. And so, with a new name and a heart ablaze with righteous fury, Omotara's silent revenge was set in motion, one calculated step at a time. 2 weeks after Omotara's disappearance made headlines as marine tragedy, Femi Oyakoya held court in the grand living room of their Ikoyi mansion. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead as he welcomed Bisola Adebayo, his new fiancée and the orchestrator of his scheme. Bisola, dressed in a soft pink sheath dress that contrasted sharply with her dark skin, smiled coyly at guests. Champagne flowed. Laughter rang hollow. Femi raised his glass. "To new beginnings," he proclaimed, voice smooth as silk. Bisola's eyes glittered. She clinked glasses with him. The assembled board members, socialites, and journalists applauded, oblivious to the poison Femi had once intended for Omotara. In the corner, a discreet camera crew filmed for the foundation launch, a charitable trust Femi claimed to be dedicating to his late wife's memory. The foundation's logo, a stylized OL intertwined, adorned banners. Bisola, playing gracious widow, accepted condolences for her predecessor's untimely death. As the night wore on, Femi and Bisola toured the gallery of Omotara's portrait photographs. He paused at a large canvas, Omotara laughing beneath a jungle canopy. Femi's lip curled. "She would have hated this party," he murmured. Bisola tilted her head, feigning sympathy. Outside, hidden behind manicured hedges, Ijeoma watched through binoculars. Each moment fueled her resolve. She whispered into her earpiece. "Musa, disable the cameras at 11:45. We move then." Musa, her loyal driver-turned-ally, slipped inside under the cover of laughter. He found the security room, heart pounding, and executed her instructions. At precisely 11:45, the feeds blinked out. Downstairs, champagne glasses froze mid-toast. A chill swept through the hall as Bisola's makeup-wrapped face paled. Femi's confident grin faltered. On the screen that had gone dark, Ijeoma's silhouette appeared in graceful defiance, her low voice carrying through the hush. "You claimed my fortune, now watch it unravel." Gasps echoed. The grand party collapsed into stunned silence, marking the first strike in Omotara's silent comeback. In the Oyakoya boardroom the next morning, chaos reigned. Femi paced behind the long mahogany table, red-eyed executives clustered behind laptops. Bisola clung to his arm, feigning shock. "It must be a hack," Femi snapped. "Find who did this and scrub every leak." Musa, rostered as a junior assistant, remained silent, eyes flicking to the conference call screens. He had snuck Ijeoma's ledger data onto the master server overnight, seeding crippling transactions into Femi's finance reports. Now read overdrawn warnings and suspicious activity, Alerts flashed across every monitor. Opposite, board chairwoman Mrs. Eaton cleared her throat. Femi, the audit firm just called. They're freezing transactions linked to your offshore accounts, pending an internal inquiry. Femi's world tilted. He inhaled sharply. Impossible. Release the funds. Bisola whispered urgently. My love, calm down. Suddenly the door yawned open. Ijeoma stepped in, head held high, draped in an immaculate white blazer. Her old power suit reborn in exile. The executives recoiled. Bisola screeched. Ladies and gentlemen, Ijeoma began, her voice steady as a judge's gavel. I'm sure you're wondering why your accounts are locked. She clicked a remote. The projector displayed Femi's private emails, proof of embezzlement, collusion with foreign shell companies, and the order to eliminate his wife. The room reeled. Hush fell. Femi's face drained of color. He lurched forward. You can't, how did you? Ijeoma raised a palm. Let me finish. She outlined how she'd survived, assumed a new identity, and quietly amassed evidence against him. She revealed Musa's unwavering support, and how his insider access had turned the tide. Bisola sobbed into Femi's shoulder. Board members whispered frantic questions into phones. Ijeoma's gaze swept the room. Precise, unyielding. When we launch the inquiry, she concluded, your empire will crumble. She turned on her heel and exited, leaving Femi to face the ruin he'd orchestrated. News of the Alyakoya financial scandal spread like wildfire. International outlets sniffed the scent of betrayal. Investors fled. Meanwhile, Ijeoma moved through Lagos's financial district in understated power, black trousers and a silk scarf, hair wrapped elegantly. She entered the gleaming lobby of Sovereign Capital Partners. The receptionists recognized her only as Lady Ijeoma, a mysterious benefactor. No one suspected she was the wife thought dead. In a glass-walled office on the top floor, she met with Mr. Adewale, a shrewd venture capitalist who had once coveted Femi's backing. He rose to greet her. You're exacting your revenge with style, he said, smiling. Ijeoma returned the smile. I believe in poetic justice and sound investments. She slid a folder across the table. Femi's rivals, undervalued assets, failing subsidiaries. Invest in these. As they rebound, you'll see returns. And Femi's companies will collapse under their own weight. Adewale's eyes sparkled at the prospect. Brilliant. We'll lock in positions today. Over the next fortnight, Sovereign Capital's discreet purchases triggered cascading takeovers. Femi's board fought to defend their stake, but with frozen accounts and mounting lawsuits, they were powerless. Meanwhile, Bisola sat in the Alyakoya mansion's study, rifling through ledgers. Why is he investing in competitor oil fields? Our share price should be soaring. She dialed Femi's cell. Darling, what's going on? On the balcony above, Ijeoma observed the mansion's silhouette, her former home. A single lantern flickered. Femi's office light. She sipped tea and whispered, "Good night, my love," before disappearing into the night. Musa stood at the mansion's gate at dawn, clad in a crisp uniform. Security guards eyed him warily. He'd been promoted to head chauffeur but looked haunted. Inside, Bisola stumbled toward the garage, preparing for a charity event. Musa presented the keys. "Madam, may I remind you, the Rolls is due for service. Perhaps you'd prefer the Benz." Bisola's lipstick-smeared smile faltered. "I'll take the Rolls." Musa inclined his head, delivering the keys. As she climbed in, he whispered, "Be careful, madam." She peered at him. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, heart hammering. Femi trusts no one these days. He's watching everyone. Then, seeing her confusion, he added softly, "Stay safe." The garage door closed behind her. Musa exhaled, checking his phone. A message from Ijeoma. "Tonight, 9 p.m. Rooftop. Bring evidence." He pictured Ijeoma's determined face under the glow of Lagos's skyline. Tonight they'd rendezvous. As Bisola drove off, he murmured to the empty driveway, "Forgive me, madam." That night, under a veil of stars, Musa led Ijeoma onto the mansion's rooftop terrace. Between potted orchids, they spread out documents, audio recordings, and bank statements, the final pieces to pin Femi's crimes. Ijeoma studied the evidence. "With this," she said, voice fierce, "we'll secure an arrest warrant." She paused, touching Musa's arm. "Thank you for saving me that night and for saving yourself." He bowed his head. "You saved me too." Lightning forked over the city, a silent promise that the storm was about to break. In the Alyakoya ballroom, final preparations for Femi and Bisola's impromptu wedding were underway. Rosettes of white orchids draped the arch. A tiered cake waited on a silver stand. Guests would soon gather to witness the deceit. Femi paced near the grand piano, phone to ear. "Double the floral budget," he barked. "And have security sweep the perimeter for bugs." He ended the call, spotting Bisola adjusting her veil before a gilded mirror. She turned, lips trembling. "Is everything ready?" He forced a reassuring smile. "Perfect, my love. Tonight we celebrate our future." Upstairs, Ijeoma and Musa slipped into the estate's private wing. They located the safe behind a portrait of Omotara's real smile. Musa retrieved a thin folder, the original wills, Femi's doctored versions and Omotara's true testament, leaving him nothing. Ijeoma breathed in the leather-bound documents. "This," she whispered, "will strip him bare." They descended to the ballroom just as guests arrived, swirling in gowns and tuxedos. Inspector Neka Okoro, quietly invited by Ijeoma, took her place at the back, badge concealed under a designer blazer. Femi and Bisola stepped beneath the arch. The minister began reciting vows, words of eternal love that rang like lies. Suddenly the lights snapped off. Collective gasp. The crystal chandeliers went dark. Emergency lights glowed red. Bisola clutched Femi's arm. "What's happening?" A spotlight illuminated Ijeoma at the entrance. In her hand she held the folder. "By the authority vested in me," she began, voice echoing. The minister's silhouette faltered. Guests murmured. Femi's face went white. He lunged forward. "Stop this farce." Inspector Neka stepped beside Ijeoma, flashing her badge. "Femi Alyakoya, you are under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and embezzlement." The minister stumbled away. Handcuffs clicked. Bisola sobbed, betrayed and abandoned. Femi's empire collapsed in an instant beneath the garish wedding lights. As officers led him away, Ijeoma closed the folder of wills. She glanced at the stunned guests and offered a small, victorious bow. Outside, the rain began to fall, each drop a salute to justice served. And so, at the altar of deceit, Omotara Alyakoya reclaimed her name, her fortune and her vengeance, setting the stage for the empire she would build anew. Ijeoma had spent days scouring Lagos's underbelly for Bisola's estranged sister, Funk Adebayo. Today, she found her in a cramped maternity clinic at Alausa, thin, frightened, and clutching her swollen belly. Funk's once bright eyes were dulled by fear and betrayal. Ijeoma approached her quietly, offering a warm smile. "Funk Adebayo," she asked gently. "My name is Ijeoma Njidika. I knew your sister." Funk flinched. You knew her." "I knew the real Bisola," Ijeoma said, voice soft but firm. "She lied to you, to everyone. But I'm here to help." Tears sprang to Funk's eyes. "He abandoned me when I needed him most. I thought he cared." Ijeoma placed a hand on her shoulder. "He used you. But now we have the evidence to ruin him. Will you stand with me?" Funk straightened, resolve flickering. "He took everything from me, my home, my dignity. I want him to feel that loss tenfold." Over tea in the clinic's tiny courtyard, Ijeoma showed Funk the dossier. Bank transfers, legal filings, photos of Bisola's new mansion paid for with Omotara's money. Funk's grip on the documents tightened. That's his signature, she whispered. Together, Ijeoma said, we'll expose every lie. And so, two women betrayed by the same man forged an alliance, one born of shared pain, sealed by a thirst for justice. Their sisterhood would become Femi's undoing. The annual Lagos Philanthropy Gala was in full swing at the Eco Convention Center. Under glittering chandeliers and soaring palm fronds, Nigeria's elite sipped Dom Perignon and praised Femi Olukoya as a paragon of charity. Bisola glided beside him, radiant in her white ball gown. Backstage, Ijeoma and Inspector Neko Okoro exchanged tense nods. Projectors were set. Audio tapes cued. At the signal, the lights dimmed. Murmurs rippled through the hall. On the giant screens behind the stage, first one frame appeared. Femi's private security footage of him tossing Omotara overboard. Shock froze the guests mid-toast. The projector clicked again to reveal Bisola's voice on a hidden mic. Are you sure she's dead? Gasps cascaded like a wave. Chandeliers trembled. A table overturned. Bisola's laughter died in her throat. Femi's jaws clenched until his fingers whitened. The MC stumbled off the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry, this must be a hoax. Ijeoma stepped forward, spotlight illuminating her calm face. It's no hoax. This is the truth Femi Olukoya tried to bury. She held up a tablet showing bank statements of his stolen fortune. And evidence of how he funded your charity with embezzled funds. Pandemonium erupted. Reporters lunged for microphones. Security guards formed a perimeter around Femi. He spun toward Ijeoma, rage and disbelief warring in his eyes. You can't do this. Consider it my gift to the truth, Ijeoma replied coolly. As the gala descended into chaos, Femi realized his empire was unraveling in public view, just as Ijeoma intended. 3 nights later, Ijeoma and Inspector Neka stood on the deck of the Odyssey, now impounded and under forensic investigation. The yacht's polished teak was scarred by the memory of Omotara's fall. Lanterns flickered. The vast Atlantic glimmered like spilled mercury. Ijeoma's heels clicked softly as she surveyed the scene. This was the instrument of my murder, she murmured. Neka knelt by the railing, inspecting a dark stain. Blood residue, she noted. It matches her DNA. Ijeoma watched the water's gentle swell. Every plank holds a secret. Every bolt a witness. In the captain's cabin, they discovered the logbook. Entries showing the ship's route, unexpected course changes, and orders from Femi to disable the transit alarms. Ijeoma ran her finger along the ledger's pages. Outside, the engine room's hatch stood ajar. They found the master switch Femi had tampered with to cut the lights. Neka radioed the lab to secure all evidence. Later on the yacht's bow, Ijeoma closed her eyes. The Atlantic breeze whipped her scarf. Turning to Neka, she said softly, "This place took me under. But it won't break me." With that, they planted the final seal on the Odyssey. Everything recorded, everything catalogued. The yacht would testify forever against its owner. Femi Olukoya sat in a tastefully decorated salon aboard the Odyssey, unaware that justice had lured him back to the scene of his crime. Inspector Neka, in plain clothes, greeted him with feigned solemnity. "Mr. Olukoya," she said, "we're staging a reconstruction of your late wife's fall to establish timeline discrepancies." Femi's eyes darted nervously. Reconstruction. Ijeoma entered then, dressed in white linen matching the night of the incident. The overhead lamps glowed like the moonlight that fateful night. Femi's breath caught. "Please," Neka gestured toward the railing. "Walk me through it." Femi stood, visibly shaking. Ijeoma watched from the corner, arms folded. Step by step, Femi retraced his movements. The glass of champagne he handed Omotara, the way he spun her, the pivot before the shove. At the critical moment, Neka, hidden cameras rolling, stood behind him. "Imagine her there," she instructed softly. Femi's shoulders tensed. For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Then, as he mimed the shove, his face twisted in horror at his own motion. Ijeoma stepped forward, voice low. Femi, you know there's no accident. Behind him, men in plain clothes emerged with handcuffs. Femi whirled, panic in his eyes. This is inadmissible. It's all recorded, Neka replied, clicking her cuffs shut around his wrists. You really thought the sea would protect your secret? In that stunned tableau, Femi in cuffs, Ijeoma poised and unbroken, the reenactment became the closing argument against him. Bare bulbs cast harsh light in a locked basement chamber beneath Ijeoma's ancestral home. Femi's former bodyguard Ade Toby Ogunlai knelt on the concrete floor, trembling. A single guard stood watch. Ijeoma held a pistol loosely by her side. Toby's voice quivered. I only did what I was told. Ijeoma leveled the gun. Then tell me exactly who gave the order. Toby swallowed. It was Bisola, no Femi. He said, make sure she never talks again. He gave me cash instructions. He even showed me the location coordinates. Ijeoma's eyes narrowed. And you went along with it. He hung his head. I'm sorry. I couldn't stop him. She retrieved a small recorder. Say it on tape. He cleared his throat. On December 12, Mr. Alyakoya instructed me to disable the yacht's security feeds, ensure the deck lights were off, and push Madame Alyakoya overboard. I did it because I was afraid. The recorder clicked off. Ijeoma replaced it in her pocket. You're done, she said, nodding to the guard. As they escorted Toby away to await arrest, Ijeoma stared at the sealed door. Femi's confession, public, undeniable, would be delivered in court tomorrow. Alone in the silent basement, she exhaled. 15 chapters of betrayal and revenge had led here, to the confession that would finish what the sea had begun. And as dawn crept through the high windows, Omotara's vengeance stood complete, unyielding, unmistakable, and utterly righteous. The packed courtroom buzzed as spectators leaned forward in anticipation. Femi Alyakoya sat flanked by defense counsel, eyes hollow with dread. Across the aisle Ijeoma, her true identity revealed, took the stand in tailored navy, calm and unshakable. State your full name for the record, the prosecutor demanded. Ijeoma Njidika, formerly Omotara Alyakoya, she replied with quiet strength. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Femi's mouth fell open. Ms. Njidika, the judge intoned, you claim to be the woman your husband tried to kill. How do you explain the discrepancy in his testimony? Ijeoma slid a folder toward the clerk. Your Honor, I bring video evidence of the yacht's security feed, witness testimony from Abuligbobi villagers, and bodyguard Ogunlai's signed confession. The judge flipped through the dossier. Mr. Alyakoya, you swore under oath that you believed your wife dead by accident. How do you respond? Femi's voice cracked. Your Honor, I answer the question. He swallowed. I panicked. Panic does not justify attempted murder, fraud, or embezzlement. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. I hereby admit all evidence. Bail is revoked. As bailiffs led Femi away, cameras swarmed. Ijeoma rose, eyes steady. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored, front-page headlines already writing themselves. In one decisive twist, she had seized the narrative from prey to victor. That afternoon, the Alyakoya boardroom resembled a war council. Mrs. Eaton sat at the head, gavel in hand. Ijeoma entered, now seated as interim chairperson. Around her, directors in sleek suits shifted nervously. Our banks have frozen Femi's assets, Ijeoma announced, voice measured. The screens displayed red lines. Assets on hold. Bisola, cloaked in a cherry-red power dress, sniffed. You can't just take over. This is my husband's company. Ijeoma's eyes narrowed. These companies were built on my fortune. Legally, ethically, and now criminally, they belong to me. A director cleared his throat. Ms. Njidika, competitors are circling. We risk hostile bids. Ijeoma tapped her tablet. I've already reached out to sovereign capital partners. They're prepared to inject fresh equity under my leadership. A murmur of approval swelled. Mrs. Edom nodded. All in favor of installing Lady Ijeoma as permanent CEO. Hands rose around the table. Bisola slumped, face drained. Through the glass wall, journalists gathered, capturing the board's verdict. Omotara was back, and Femi's empire was now hers to rebuild. 6 months later, Lagos's skyline shimmered under Ijeoma's new ventures. The rebranded Njideka holdings spanned tech startups, renewable energy, and a women's empowerment fund. In her corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city she was reshaping. Mr. Adewale strode in, portfolio in hand. Your growth projections are staggering. Ijeoma offered him coffee. We're building an empire rooted in integrity. He flipped through charts. Investor confidence is at an all-time high. You turned crisis into opportunity. She smiled. Those who try to bury you forget you're a seed. On the conference call, Funk Adebayo and Musa watched from home, their screens alive with the news ticker. Njideka Holdings overtakes Olukoya Enterprises. Joy gleamed in their eyes. They had witnessed a woman rise from betrayal to unmatched power. In that boardroom, Ijeoma closed her laptop. Let's change the world. And with a single nod, she launched the next phase of her reign, transforming vengeance into visionary leadership. Under a blood-red sunset, the Odyssey, now docked for decommission, loomed silent. Ijeoma, dressed in black leather jacket and gloves, climbed aboard with Musa and Inspector Neka. A small crowd watched from the pier, whispers like wind through sails. She stood on deck where she had nearly died. The boards creaked with memory. Inspector Neka pressed a button on a remote. A flame hissed to life at the base. Musa's voice trembled. Are you sure? Ijeoma's gaze was unflinching. It was never her home. It was his weapon. Let it burn. A sudden whoosh as fire raced along the hull. Flames leapt skyward, licking at rigging and teak. The crowd gasped, some wept. Ijeoma stepped back onto the pier, hand shielding her eyes against the heat. As the yacht's silhouette melted into embers, she whispered a benediction. The roaring blaze engulfed Femi's legacy once and for all, purging the past, illuminating her rebirth. In a sleek television studio, Ijeoma sat across from award-winning journalist Chidinma Okizi. Cameras rolled, lights glowed. Chidinma leaned forward. Lady Njideka, after everything, why did you never press full charges against your husband? Ijeoma's dark eyes held the audience. Sometimes silence is more powerful than vengeance. My life, my empire. They speak louder than any courtroom. Flashbulbs popped as she continued. I chose transformation over retribution. I built something that serves millions rather than destroys one. Chidinma nodded, impressed. And your final message to viewers? Ijeoma smiled serenely. Don't let betrayal define you. Let it refine you. The studio erupted in applause. Across screens in homes and on smartphones, her words echoed. An anthem for anyone who had ever been wronged. And so, from victim to visionary, Omotara Olukoya, now Ijeoma Njideka, ended her story not with bitterness but with $1 billion silence that spoke volumes. Then,